Boom, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome back to PokeMarketLab. We're talking about AI and Pokemon today. How do those two things mix? And I think the point I'm going to try to make in this video is that they don't. And we're going to kind of take a bit of a departure from the channel here. We're going to go from investing and collecting, Pokemon cards to kind of all the way to futurism, the, incoming singularity, how AI is going to affect Pokemon and everything else here. It's going to all be Pokemon related, but it's going to be on some tangents here. I'm going to talk about some overall humanity-based things that will affect Pokemon, your investments, collecting, all that stuff. So if that sounds good to you, hang on for this tangent and welcome to PokeMarketLab. All right, if you're along for this ride, welcome. A reminder, if you like what we're doing here, please, we would love your subscription. We would love any comments, any questions that you may have. We are going to do a Q&A video sometime, I think this week. So any questions you might have about anything I'm talking about today, about running a Pokemon investing YouTube channel, collecting Pokemon, life, running a YouTube channel, all that stuff, leave your comments in the comments section below, and we will feature them on the Q&A video. So yeah, back to today's topic. Again, bear with me on this. I think this is really important stuff. So let's talk about AI. I don't think I need to explain what AI is. We're going to talk about where AI is going in the future. So let's talk about what the current effects of AI are on the Pokemon company. And I would argue that currently not much. I think what the Pokemon company is probably trying to wrestle with now is how do we probably don't want to use AI in terms of image generation. I think that would be antithetical to what the Pokemon company is, which is we're for the artwork, right? People are collecting this stuff, right? Artwork matters. The human aspect of that artwork matters to a degree. And that's the hazy part of this that we really don't truly understand yet is, let's put it this way. If you see a bomb-ass Pokemon card with amazing artwork, right? It's just, you're like, I gotta have it. Does it matter where the artwork came from? If it was AI generated or generated by a human artist, right? That's something we're still wrestling with. In the future, you're going to be able to watch full feature-length films that were completely created from script to CGI, voice, everything from AI. If you saw a Casino, Terminator 2, that kind of level of film where you're just blown away and it just sits with you, and you found out it wasn't made by a human, does that matter? So I think that's an answer that I certainly don't have a question I don't have an answer for. I don't think anyone does. That is something that time is going to tell us. I think there could be a world where both of that stuff exists. But back to the Pokemon company, I think my guess is they would firmly come down on the fact that they're not going to use AI for image generation anytime soon. I don't think they would want to broach that. I don't think that is it really comes down to right now a financial savings. The question is in the future, is that from an artwork generation standpoint, if AI is putting out tremendous artwork or can put out tremendous artwork that competes with what humans can do, which creates it's a whole nother humanity question at that point. How does that, that's a profound impact to humans. But is that a thread that the Pokemon company wants to pull on? And we just don't know. So from a strictly financial standpoint, that is not a thread they're going to pull on right now. It doesn't make any sense. It would impact them negatively. Again, that the product that the Pokemon sells is not the cards. It's the nostalgia. It's so hard to describe. It's the confidence is really what it is at the end, especially from a collector's and investing standpoint, specifically investing standpoint, the confidence that they are not going to reprint that SIR in another set in the future, right? That is what they are selling at the end of the day. The tie-in to all the other IP stuff that they have, that is what they are selling at the end of the day. So that there's a very fine line of things that they can do, which is why they move extremely slow, which in the TCG space is why they haven't done like collector's boxes and things like that generate more revenue, but there are tricky things to manage. They can dilute the confidence of their product in the long term. They can add value too, but there's always a risk there, right? There's a risk to that stuff. So which is why they steer that ship extremely slowly, right? And that means probably leaving some profit on the table, but they are not willing. And I've always given their management kudos. It is the carrot at the end of the stick is large in terms of making additional products and overprinting and all that other stuff that some of the other TCGs do and have mismanaged in the past. Pokemon Company has managed that phenomenally. And again, part of that is because they don't have the play value, right? They have some play value, but most of the revenue that they generate is from confidence. It's from the confidence in the product. So they don't have like Magic the Gathering. At the end of the day, is play based, right? There's collectors and everything, but it's the vast majority of people who buy cards. There's value because of the mechanics of those cards, and the Pokemon is different. That's not to say people don't play. Way more people play Pokemon than anyone realizes or gives them credit for. So let's talk about what other aspects of their business can utilize AI. I think obviously in the game space, coding space. So their mobile applications, their mobile game, their Switch games, they will have to use AI. They probably are using AI right now to generate code behind the scenes. That's a matter of keeping up with the Joneses at this point. They would be doing themselves a disservice not to use it there. And then the impact to the end user, it's all value add there. It doesn't detract from anything. Again, that's very, very different than what we're talking about on the card side in terms of artwork generation. Going to the administrative side, I'm sure they're using it behind the scenes in terms of accounting, in terms of management and all that. Again, they have to be able to stay relevant, to stay efficient. Those are the type of things that, again, the money up front to utilize whatever AI product that is a value add to the customer, the shareholder, everyone at the end of the day, because that's just adding efficiency gains and just allows them to be faster and more efficient. So let's shift gears and talk about the future a little bit. I touched on this a little while ago. I don't think the biggest concern in the future is some Terminator 2 Judgment Day situation where AI takes over, nukes the world, and that's it. I don't think that's a zero, chance risk. I don't think there's a zero sum, game there. But I do think the bigger question is what it does to us in terms of purpose, to humans in terms of purpose. So let's step back a little bit. The next 5 to 10 years, I believe, again, I'm using AI daily, keeping up with the news, reading on this, thinking about it. It's using it heavily. I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be extremely turbulent as AI gets rolled out and adopted, and humans find themselves in a position of trying to find their purpose. And that seems stupid at the forefront. It's like, hey, I mean, even if AI takes over every job and we get universal basic income, and humans will find a way. We'll find something else. But what I don't think people realize is that AI is going to come for just about every space, right? We see it with, obviously, we see it with coding heavily right now. It's affecting companies tremendously. There's companies they've stopped hiring coders. They've slowly, slowed down the hiring of programmers. There's companies that have said we're gonna do layoffs because of this, right? So it's already affecting parts of our industry, and it's going to parts of every industry, and it's going to start spreading, right? There is no moat around anything. And what I say by moat means, in the past, we've assumed that certain things are safe. They're safe from either competition, they're safe from technological advance, and that seems to be eroding. And I kind of find it hard to think of anything that is safe. I'm sure there's levels of things that are not going to be touched for a long period of time. So, for instance, hey, you call a plumber or an electrician, let's put it that way, come work on your house, right? And every house is different. So even robots might have a hard time operating in that kind of environment. There's things that are like, hey, I can see this being 20 years away from being, completely taken over by robots, AI, what have you. But I find it hard to believe that there's anything that isn't safe. Again, going back to what the impact is to humanity and humanity's purpose, I think as AI gets better and better and better at a lot of the creative things that we humans assume are completely safe, that belong to us, that I think is the kind of the oh shit moment where, again, I talked about a feature length film. If you, I don't know how this would work. If you come out of a movie theater after being blown away by a completely AI-driven movie, created soup to nuts, maybe from a simple human prompt, maybe not. Maybe AI gets to the point where it creates novel ideas. Doesn't matter that it came from a human or not. And I think there's people like, yeah, it does matter, but We don't know. Again, that question isn't answered. That's my concern. If we lose our purpose, whether that's work, which I think people don't give enough credit for, I think everyone's like, yeah, we'll just, if we can get, sustenance living and AI and robots, and we'll do all the work for us, not a problem. Yeah, that's great if humans can shift their focus and purpose to something else. But again, if all those spaces are occupied by robots and AI, where does that leave humans? So again, I think there's some, and those are far out, right? Those are really far out ideas, but they're not as far out as people are thinking. I think the next 5 years is going to be the start of an extremely difficult transition as more and more people lose their jobs. They're trying to find purpose. They're trying to retrain into other things. We've never had a mass. We're never going to have had a mass migration and shift in job patterns, and then we're going to experience in the next 10 years. And if you're thinking about, if you're watching this video and you're like, well, this is ridiculous, this is never going to happen. I think it is. I think it is going to happen. I think the timing may be wrong, but I think it's going to happen. And I think I've had a lot of people. I run an AI group at my current job. Again, trying to keep our division ahead on these things. The amount of people that have their heads in the sand that I spend 20 minutes with, and then they don't have their heads in the sand, is crazy. Is people are trying to bury their heads and say, this is not going to happen. We're going to stop this from happening. And that's not the case. Okay. I'm sorry to get on a tangent away from Pokemon. I'm trying to paint a picture of what the future looks like. So with that said, maybe there's a world where people are so plugged in to the virtual world. We already see this now with social media, with games, VR headsets, and so on and so forth. We've seen this kind of future painted in movies like WALL-E, the proverbial Matrix, right? And we've already seen a kickback in terms of how this affects us. Humans are almost infinitely adaptable, but there's a point at which we need human connection. We need physical things, physical touch, right? We need all that stuff. I don't think that is replaceable by simple, electrical connections to our brain. I don't. So I think what we're going to see in the future, we've seen this a little bit already, is what I would call an analog renaissance. And that is a pullback from things digital to where humans are more focused on the physical nature of things again. We almost like we flew too close to the sun in terms of AI, in terms of plugging into, again, the proverbial matrix, that we pull back. And we focus on things, the people that are right in front of you. Information, truth online is already hard to come by. We're already seeing Google's VO3 creating a dystopian, the potential future of a dystopian world where the likeness and voice of anyone could be used to spread misinformation online. The only truth that you're going to know is what is literally physically in front of you. The people, the words that are coming out of their mouth in front of you. We are at the point already where AI can make uncanny videos, again, that you would have a hard time picking out as AI. And it's not where we're currently at necessarily, which I think is still far, advanced. I think the trend and the rate of change is such that in 6 months to 6 years, this is going to be, we cannot even envision what that world looks like. I'm trying to paint that picture of what I think it's going to look like. And I know I'm going to be completely wrong. And that's why a lot of people call what we're heading towards a singularity, which is a point at which the rate of change of this technology happens so quickly that you can't see past a horizon. And that's really what we're heading towards. And we don't know what is on the other side of that. So if you can kind of chart out what this rate of change looks like, right? It almost looks vertical to us now, but it's still slightly changing, right? It's increasing that rate of change. We're to the point where we're almost vertical on that. There's never been a time in human history where the rate of change in technology has been so vertical as it is now. So the rate of change is literally changing. So again, I think that singularity that we're heading towards, that point at which we can't see past that horizon, no one can predict what is past that point, is scary. It's crazy. There's going to be the potential for a bright future post singularity, But what happens to people on the way there is the question. So again, going back to the analog renaissance, I think that is going to be a tremendous boon for things like collectibles. So I think that analog renaissance, so to speak, is going to be a boon for human created things in front of us. Physical pieces of art, collectibles. I think we're going to have a pullback. We've already seen that in a lot of ways. We've seen a resurgence in vinyl collecting, even book purchases, right? Physical book purchases, physical pieces of artwork, right? I think there's going to be a pullback from this digital nature. Not to say we can't navigate it. We can. Again, we are adaptable, but I think there's a point at which it just becomes, not that we don't want to, it becomes unsustainable. It's not healthy. And so a lot of people describe what's happening with AI is evolution through different means. So we are evolving our own intelligence to better serve us, or better serve what we consider human intelligence into the next age, which is digital, right? Which it's going to be able to thrive in that environment where, again, as us, we are hitting the limitations of our meat popsicle brains and bodies at this point. We are going to search for authenticity. We are going to want to play and be around humans. COVID taught us that however much we want to be at home and we want to disconnect from the world, or want to view the world from our screens, that human interaction is paramount. It is irreplaceable. And when you feel like you don't want to be around humans, there's a part of you that does. And so I think this in-person stuff, this physical stuff is going to be, I think the biggest years of Pokemon are still ahead. I truly, truly do. The nostalgia, the way that Magic is dealing, not to talk about another TCG, but Magic is dealing with this hard problem now where their original IP is so far in the rearview mirror that their vintage, no one wants anymore because there's no exposure to it. No one, because the Wizards stopped pushing that IP, developing that IP in a form, in a way that people could fall in love with and continually fall in love with, that they had to shift to looking at other IPs that people were already related with and start rolling those into their card game. And it's created a world that is uncontrollable for them now. They have to go to a different well to pull IP from now. And now they can't go back to their own IP, or they're having trouble going back to their own IP. So just to bring it back to Pokemon. So Pokemon doesn't have this problem. They've done a fantastic job keeping that original 151, what made, what started that fire, keeping that, making sure people are continuously falling in love with that. While introducing new generations of Pokemon. So I think this is, again, they've masterfully navigated this, which is why I'm so confident that they will be able to navigate this crazy future. I think even if they stood still in terms of change, I think the fact that they're unwilling and unwavering in there to change anything in terms of again, I'm not to say they don't change things, but they steer so deliberately and slowly. And it's like an orchestra of all the different divisions of their IP focusing on the same thing at the same time. Again, is masterful. And that's why they're going to navigate this so extremely well. And I do think that from an investment standpoint, so why I'm so bullish on this. This is, there is no replacement for physical stuff. And you can go on it, a further tangent and say, well, okay, well, that's just capitalism. Yeah, that's built into who we are. We consume, and this is not going to change. And this is why, again, when you're talking about capitalism, you're talking about physical items, and that is part of what makes us human: the physical, right, touch of things, being able to hold things and play with things and use tools and so on and so forth. That's irreplaceably human. So again, I think the Pokemon Company is uniquely situated to navigate this in the future. Not just well, but the best days are still yet to come, I think. One other thing to talk about, I think one part of the industry that's going to change tremendously, I think, is grading. I think AI-driven grading companies that must be talking about this. I don't think there's been a lot of news, but I cannot imagine that they aren't talking about this. But training image, classification models to be in computer vision models to be able to read cards. And I'm talking reading every freaking drop of ink on that card, right? and to the point where a model is grading a card to a 99.9% accuracy. So someone's going to roll that out at some point. The issue is going to be what that does to every other card that that company has graded, because now you've created this classification system where everything from this point on that's driven by AI is 99.9% accurate, meaning you could grade that card 1,000 times and it would grade that same grade 999 times, versus everything that had been graded before at that same company, which was graded by a human, right? So that's going to create some issues if it's the same company. I think if you're a new company and you come out with this business idea, I think that is probably the sweet spot. That is going to be huge. It's going to be faster. Again, you might be able to do, in-store grading, right? The equipment for this stuff, the model is what's going to be the special sauce, so to speak. And so you'll be able to do something. You'd be able to go into GameStop and just have your card graded right there, slabs right in front of you. And again, have confidence that it is what it says in terms of that grade. And you can start getting into crazy things about all kinds of subgrades, about this, that, and the other. And just you really start getting really minute in terms of all these different classifications that they use to grade cards. So to bring this home, I think if you are concerned about your collection, your investing, who's going to be buyers in the next 5 years, if you are collecting or investing, you have to have a buyer at the other end of your game plan to offload this. Again, I think we'll see the ups and downs of the next 5 years like we typically do. Market's going to wane. This market that we're in is not going to, I don't think, is going to last forever. It will decrease. We could certainly be in a market in a couple of years from now where it's double where we are today. Again, no one knows what that future is. What I'm trying to paint is a picture where I think the future is bright. And I think the future is bright for humanity, for people. And because it has to be, because it's just not worth living your life not assuming that that's going to be the case, right? You got to build and put yourself out there knowing that the future is bright and there's always going to be more opportunity. And I truly believe that. So when you miss out on a product and whatever, and you're disgruntled and you missed your opportunity, there's always going to be something else. There's always going to be more opportunity. And again, I think that the future we're headed in is more uncertain than it ever has been, certainly in my lifetime. But that means that there's a lot of opportunity out there if you want to go get it. So that's our video today. Hopefully we ended on a positive note. Again, the next few years are going to be crazy, but try to keep up on the news. Try to use AI if you haven't already. Please do not stick your head in the sand. This is not going away. Like I said, the timing may be off about when this pops. When it does, I think it already has popped. You haven't missed the train or anything like that. You should be utilizing it in your daily life, personally, professionally. Again, you don't need to be, a crazy machine learning, scientist or anything like that, but just utilizing it daily, I think is extremely important. That just keeps you up on it. So that way, you're just up on the change. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Do you like this type of stuff? We're thinking kind of out of the box, not just going through, TCG Player, looking at, charts and everything like that. Would love your feedback, would love your subscription, would love your questions for our upcoming Q&A video. And with that, we will see you on the next one. PokeMarketLab out.